My name is Arianna, and I'm one of your campus pastors here, and I'm excited to get to share with you tonight. I'm going to be continuing in our series on the false gospels that we believe. Last week, Andrea shared about the false gospel of self-confidence, and she asked us to consider the ways that we're turning to the mirror for our confidence instead of to the cross. This week, I'm going to be sharing about the false gospel of the good life. Okay. I want y'all to do a little activity with me. Everybody close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes and picture a good life. What does a good life look to you? Maybe you're picturing a house with a couple kids running around outside, maybe a big yard, a cute little dog. Maybe you're imagining yourself on a beach somewhere in a tropical country with the sun out. Maybe it's getting into your dream medical school or grad school. Y'all can open up your eyes. I think that if you would have asked high school Arianna, she probably would have pictured herself in some sort of a research job or like corporate job, wearing a really cool girl boss pantsuit with a really cool, powerful job in some big city. I think that she probably would have had a lot to brag about. She probably would have been able to talk about all of her accomplishments, the things that she's really good at. She would make sure that everybody knew she was competent. I think that we all picture different things when we think of a good life. We have different dreams and hopes and aspirations for the future, and our ideas of what a good life looks like are informed by lots of different things, especially our culture. I think that we're surrounded by different narratives trying to convince us what a good life is and how to achieve it. So let's take a look at some examples. One thing that culture tries to convince us will bring us a good life is money. Money, wealth, financial freedom, hustle culture, however you want to phrase it. The idea that having more money means a better life is everywhere. We love movies that showcase wealth and attractive lifestyles. I think a lot of us, I don't know if you relate to this, but I for sure imagined myself as one of the crazy rich Asians when I was watching that movie and just pictured what it would be like for me to have that much money that I had to hide my shopping purchases from my husband because I didn't want him to feel bad that I have more money than him. Okay, y'all kind of laughed, and it's probably because I put The Wolf of Wall Street up there, but I Googled this, and The Wolf of Wall Street is still one of the most popular movies among young people, portraying this hustle culture life, even though Leonardo DiCaprio's character does objectively awful things, and the story does not end up well for him. We still are morbidly fascinated by it. We want to know what it's like to have that much money and power and be able to get what we want. It doesn't turn out well for him, but it's still we can't help but want to fantasize about it. TikToks and reels about working hard, grinding to achieve your goals, study talk, motivation, grind set, future inspiration. They're hugely popular. I think there's been a really large rise in lifestyle content creators selling us the perfect formula to ensure that we live a good life. The tag motivation for life has 1.9 million posts on Instagram, and they range from working really hard to build your perfect life with your perfect job to building your perfect family. If we can actually go back one slide, I see tons of posts like this about working under the radar, making moves in silence. It says POV, if you can't see that, it says POV, you just be here for 4 years and finally post a story. And what does he post? Him and his nice old car. I mean, okay, I think it's easy to make fun of him because we're who's this random stranger on the internet? But I guarantee at some point, some of us are thinking, it would be nice if I could get a nicer car, you know? It would be nice if I could work really hard right now and then make that big purchase later. If you go to the next slide, I feel this is another big one that I see, working really hard in your 20s so that your future looks like this, and it's a person alone in a dark room, grinding, studying, working really hard. And then the future pictures are laying out on a beach, no responsibilities, beautiful Italy. The number of times that I have personally said that I want to go to Italy in the past 2 months is astronomical. And honestly, quite embarrassing for me to then post these pictures and be I don't ever do that. This is so what? Yeah, we we are surrounded by the narrative that if we work hard now and prioritize difficult things now, we can have the perfect future, that we can create the perfect future. I also see this in music. If you go to the next song, songs like Money by Cardi B, I couldn't even post that many of the lyrics. I really tried to get a longer section before I was like, well, that's the only one. But yeah, nothing in the world that I like more than checks. 21 Savage, in the song A Lot by 21 Savage, you know what he says? He says, how much money you got? A lot. How many problems you got? A lot. Then he says, how many people done doubted you, left you to rot? How many pray that you flop? How many lawyers you got? How many times you got shot? How many times did you cheat? How many times did you lie? How many times did she leave? How many times did she cry? Those are like not good things. They're bad things actually, but we're like, he's got a lot of money, like this is a good thing. Not a good thing. If you go to the next slide, had to include this one. Diva by Beyonce. A diva is a female version of a hustler. We think that's so cool. I'm like, yes, I'm trying to be a diva, actually. I'm trying to stop the track. Let me state facts. I told you, give me a minute. I'll be right back. 50 million around the world, and they say that I couldn't get it. I done got so sick and filthy Benjis, I can't spend it. What? I'm like, it sounds good. Until you think about it, and you're like, okay, so it's all about money. Got it. I think these songs tell us that striving to achieve a certain lifestyle will ultimately fulfill me. A second way that I see the false gospel of the good life playing out is in striving for like the perfect relationship in the future. I think I see this a lot with women, but with men as well. Like I see just lots of posts about putting everything into creating this perfect relationship right now so that I can raise the perfect kids and I can have the perfect marriage and that those things will fulfill me. If you'll go to the next slide, there's this post right here that this girl's like, you're with your boyfriend too much. And she's like, no, I'm prioritizing my future family. We aren't 16 anymore, but nobody wants to talk about that. I mean, first of all, she used the wrong "your," but also... like, I don't know, I think this idea is really prevalent. Like, I'm gonna prioritize my relationship right now, and I'm not going to prioritize anything else, because I don't want anything to get in the way of this relationship in the future that's going to fulfill me. Like, I think that is the underlying narrative right here. If you go to the next slide, the song Heaven by Kane Brown. I don't know if you guys know Kane Brown. I just was looking up country songs. But in the lyrics, he says, everybody's talking about heaven like they just can't wait to go, saying how it's going to be so good, so beautiful. Lying next to you in this bed with you, I ain't convinced, because I don't know how. I don't know how heaven could be better than this. He is selling you the story that right now, this relationship with this girl that he has is better than anything else. I think this is the false gospel of the good life. It tells us that I can create the perfect life if I just work really hard to get the things that I want. It teaches us that with the right amount of hard work, dedication, sacrifice, I can create a good life for myself and my family. And that dissatisfaction and discontentment now are actually good because those things push me to work harder. The false gospel of the good life tells us that when I get the things I want, the job, the family, the house, financial freedom, the ability to travel, the children, whatever it is, when I get it, I'll have achieved success that will ultimately fulfill my every desire. And because I'm in control of my success and I'm responsible for making sure that I live a good life, the only conclusion that we can come to is that life isn't good or worth it when I don't achieve the things that I want to. And so maybe at this point, you don't necessarily relate. You're like, Arianna, I've read the Bible. I know that chasing worldly ideals is not going to actually satisfy me. To this, I would say, yeah, maybe you know it. But I don't think that disqualifies you from falling victim to the sneaky and attractive ways that the good life infiltrates our community. I've seen it in my own life. Currently, I see this as I scroll on social media and mentally catalog the things that I think are going to make my life better, like a new outfit or a new gadget or a new hobby. Like, if only I have these things, my life's going to be better. I think the false gospel of the good life whispers to me that I can't have a good life right now if I lack anything that I want. I have to continue striving to achieve my goals. The problem with this idea of a good life is that it's really a life where I get to define what is good and what's not. I think that I catch myself fantasizing about, okay, wait, this is really embarrassing. I didn't include this, but yeah, I catch myself fantasizing about what it would look like to make a certain amount of money. And listen, I'm a dreamer, but I'm a realist as much as I am a dreamer. And so while I'm fantasizing about a certain amount of money, I am going on TexasTaxCalculator.com just to see how much in taxes I would pay on the money that I'm making, so that I can break down okay, if I was paying this amount in taxes, I would have this much monthly income, which means this lifestyle is the one that I can have. I mentioned in high school that high school me picturing a good life meant a life with the perfect job. And I think that college Arianna would probably say the same. A good life meant working hard to achieve the level of success and financial stability that I was looking for. And the problem with that, too, is that the level of success was constantly changing. One day, I would be fine with just making enough and just having enough. But another day, I want to be the president of the United States, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get there. You laugh, but I literally made jokes. I made jokes, but also was looking in, how long does it take to become a Supreme Court justice? What would the process be? Way longer than I was willing to put in, but... I think that having the good life for me meant having the right grades, the extracurriculars. It meant having the right friends who were just as ambitious and goal-oriented as I was, the people to keep me on track, and also the people to make me feel bad when I realize, oh, they're doing way better than me, so I gotta work harder to be just as good as they are. Ultimately, what I thought was a good life was a life that left me anxiety-ridden, constantly on edge, wondering if one wrong move would completely derail my entire future, as if I had that power in the first place. I remember having a conversation with some of my friends when I was in high school, graduating high school, going into college, and just lamenting at the fact that I felt I had to make every big decision in my life right now, because I was well, if I don't choose the right school, then I'm not going to go to the right school, then I'm not going to get the right resume, not the right accolades. How am I going to apply for the next grad school? And then that school will depend on where I live, and then how am I going to find a guy to marry, and blah, blah, blah. It just spirals into this, every single decision is connected, and if you make one wrong move now, sorry, you don't get a good life. I don't even know who I was then. How could I make any of these big decisions? I think that the false gospel of the good life takes the good things that God has given us to enjoy, and it makes idols of them. We think that these things will bring us ultimate happiness, that they'll save us from a life of discomfort or disappointment or uncertainty. And we fool ourselves into believing that we're in control of our lives and put our trust in these idols that can't hear us, they can't see us, and they cannot save us. They're counterfeit. And so that's the question that I want to reflect on tonight. Are you letting God define what's good, or are you settling for a counterfeit? Are you letting God define what's good, or are you settling for a counterfeit? A counterfeit life will ultimately leave you dissatisfied. It will fail you. I don't know if you guys have ever bought something counterfeit, like not a dupe, but actually just a counterfeit, maybe a knockoff luxury item. I feel they're getting a lot better at mimicking things, and so they look really similar. But when you buy a counterfeit item, there's always something that's just a little off. Maybe the quality is just a little poorer. When you buy a pair of counterfeit shoes, something will give it away. Maybe it's the stitching, or maybe it's the color's just slightly off. And you might not be able to tell at first, but if you really study it, and you wear these shoes long enough, you'll find that they are not the same quality as the real version. And I think this makes me think of the story of the prodigal son in Luke 15. The younger son is so convinced that he knows what a good life is, that he essentially goes to his dad and says, I wish that you were dead already so that I could have my share of the inheritance. So go ahead and just give it to me. And then he takes that money, goes off, and lives a good life. He spends it the way that he wants. He gets to live as wild as he wants to. He has complete freedom. But when disaster strikes, all of the money he spent and the life that he tried to achieve can't save him. He realized that actually what he left behind was a much better life. The life with his father was a much better life than the life that he tried to create on his own. And so again, are you letting God define what's good, or are you settling for a counterfeit? James 1:17 tells us that every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He is the only one who can tell us what a good life is, because he does not change. He's not dependent on the whims of culture, on what culture says is cool and good, and the things that it's trying to convince you that you think should be good. I came across a parable of an American investment banker and a Mexican fisherman that I think is like paraphrased from a Greek parable like a really long time ago, but I couldn't find the original one in English. And so I'm going to read this. A banker from Manhattan jets down to Mexico one weekend for a package fishing holiday. He rents the best boat money can buy, removes his newly bought model of the world's best fishing rod from its fresh packaging, attaches the latest high-tech lures, and begins to cast his line. Impatiently waiting for his bobber to get tugged below the surface, he spots two smiling Mexican fishermen, aimlessly puttering along in a rickety old boat, laughing and chatting as their sturdy old rods poke above the rusted hull. You know, the banker calls out to them, instead of only fishing, with just a tiny bit of investment capital, you guys could set up a lucrative tourist business. With the right commercial strategy and a decent website, you could make a killing down here. And then what? Asked one of the Mexican fishermen. Well, and then you could buy another boat, a much fancier one. And then what? Well, then you could franchise the operation, hire some other fishermen, take a cut, start to really build a business empire. Everyone would envy you. You'd be the talk of the town, a big fish among the minnows. And then what? The fisherman presses. Well, and then you could take all your money and retire early. Imagine that. And then what? Well, and then you could just go fishing whenever you wanted. I think that this sums up what the futility of striving after a good life is. It's the problem with the false gospel of the good life. It looks very attractive from the outside, but inside it is a skeleton. It's running away to a foreign country to spend all your father's money in pursuit of a good life, just to find out that your life was much better with your father. It's hypocritical. It's selfish. It's really easy to take things that seem really good on the surface. I want to be married and have kids because I want to experience that kind of love for others and raise a family. I want to have a good job so that I can have lots of money to be generous with. I want to have a nice house so that I can host people and show hospitality. I want to travel and see the world and experience all the beauty in different cultures. They seem really good on the surface, but if you dig just a little deeper, you find I'm actually guided by the idea that these things will bring me a good life. I want to be married and have kids because I think that they'll love me better than anyone else. I want to have a good job so that I can find security and stability in my income and not in God. I want to have a nice house so that I can enjoy the privacy of my own space and not be beholden to anyone. I want to travel the world because I've convinced myself that I deserve to relax and escape my responsibilities. Jesus tells the Pharisees in Matthew 23, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You're like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside you are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside you're full of hypocrisy and wickedness." I'm sure that the Pharisees had the appearance of living a very good life to the people who saw them. They held esteemed religious positions. They obeyed the rules and encouraged others to do so as well. They publicly worshiped God. I'm sure it seemed like they had a very good life. But Jesus says that they're whitewashed tombs, that they're full of bones, of dead things. Their good life isn't worth anything. because they're the ones who've defined it as good. They don't care what Jesus has to say about their life. A little before that section of verses, Jesus also says, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you've neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides! You strain out a gnat but swallow a camel." He's saying, you guys are worried about the wrong things here. Justice, mercy, faithfulness, that's what God cares about. Not these other things that they've added to the definition of a good life. And so again, are you letting God define what's good, or are you settling for a counterfeit? What are you striving to achieve? The good life that we're striving for is an empty shell compared to the good life that Jesus offers us. There's been like a huge rise recently in fitness and lifestyle content creators, like especially men who have the perfect workout and life balance. Not even just work-life balance, but workout and life balance. But like they're doing it all alone. They show these very curated videos of them waking up alone, working out alone, going to work alone, coming home alone. And like they're proud of it. Have y'all seen the 5 to 9 before my 9 to 5 trend? That makes me so mad, because I'm like, who is really waking up that early? I mean, maybe them, not me. Yeah, I think these videos just perpetuate the idea that being like strong, obsessed with your own personal optimization and growth is the ideal. And they're proud that they're doing it alone. Their idea of a good life is a life of loneliness. And we're like, good, that's great. That's what I'm going for. I'm going for waking up at 4:50 a.m., taking my pre-workout, and then going to the gym at 6 a.m., and then cleaning. I think those are out of order. She cleans at 5:15, and then she goes to the gym at 6 a.m. But yeah, I think it's the same, like just selling this idea that you can have it all. You can do it all. Whatever you want, whatever you think will make you the best version of you. It's yours. I'm like, ooh, that sounds like surprisingly familiar. I feel like somebody said that before, maybe like in scripture. I don't know. Yeah, if we go to the next slide, have y'all seen this? Y'all know what I'm talking about? If you don't know what I'm talking about, there was this like content creator who like wakes up at 4 a.m. and for some reason he does like a cold plunge thing with his face in a bowl of water, but for some reason he only does Saratoga sparkling water. So he like pours a bottle. I'm like, how many bottles does he go through? I have no idea. And then he proceeds to maybe eat a banana, but like doesn't really explain, and use the banana peel to like wash his face. I don't know what he's doing. He wipes it all over his face. Very strange. But this is maybe like an extreme caricature, but like this is the type of content that we are eating up. We're like, these people have it all together. He's got his morning routine down. Maybe I don't want to be rubbing a banana on my face, but sometimes I wish that I was a lot more disciplined so that I could wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym and do all these things. Lawrence sent me a couple articles about like these bodybuilders who are just dying out of the blue. Like they're having heart attacks from their strict diets and lifestyles, and they're dying in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. I mean, these people with like beautiful physiques, they have worked so hard to achieve their goals. They're building their house on straw, and it's killing them. They're building their house on the idea and their life on the idea that if they just work really hard to achieve their goals, they'll have a good life. And that good life is short. 1 Corinthians 3 is Paul talking about the type of foundation that we're building. And in verse 10, he says, "By the grace God has given me, I laid a foundation as a wise builder, and someone else is building on it. But each one should build with care. For no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. If anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. If what has been built survives, the builder will receive a reward. If it's burned up, the builder will suffer loss, but yet will be saved, even though only as one escaping through the flames." So I think we really have to reflect, what are we building our lives on? Are you letting God define what's good, or are you settling for counterfeit? Are you building your life on a counterfeit materials? I think that the false gospel of the good life can also tell us that if God is good, he will give me what I want, because I want good things. Or like sometimes it's not even that he'll give me what I want, but it's more of like he'll give me permission to chase after what I want. Like he won't be that concerned with the things that I'm going after. No matter how selfish I have to act to fulfill what I want, God wants me to be happy and fulfilled. That's a good life. So I think the question here is, what happens when we don't get what we want? What happens when we lose our job, or it takes us longer than we thought to graduate? What happens when we don't get married? Our counterfeit definitions of good only work when things are going perfectly the way that we want them to. And unfortunately, life does not stay that way for long. We can't control our lives. And then the other hand is like, what happens when we do finally get the things we want? We buy that house or the car, we get the job, we're finally in the relationship that we thought would fulfill us. What happens when we get it all and it's still not enough? I read a story about Shaun White, he's a famous Olympic snowboarder who won gold medals in 2006, 2010, and 2018. He also, learned this recently, holds the world record for the most X Games gold medals and most Olympic gold medals by a snowboarder. And he's talked openly about struggling with his mental health after competitions, especially after the Olympics. In one interview, he described feeling a dramatic emptiness and near unbearable feelings of isolation and aimlessness after the Olympics, regardless of if he won or lost. He's won 3 times. He explains that his world becomes so centered and focused on this one event. Like his entire life revolves around it, every minute of every day. And after that single day, when the focus of his entire life disappears, it leads him to a profound sense of emptiness. Like he's finally achieved his life's goal, and yet he feels more depressed than any other time in his life. I think that's because his vision of a good life was counterfeit. It couldn't fulfill him. And we need to make sure that the foundation that we're building our lives on is one that will last. We can't build a foundation on the hope of a future ideal, fulfilled version of ourselves that we're trying to create on our own. The only foundation that lasts is Jesus Christ, who doesn't promise us a perfect life where we get everything we want, but he does promise us a full life. I think that a big way that I see this false gospel of the good life playing out in our community is when I hear us talk about the future. I hear things like, oh, I'm just like a broke college student right now. Or like, oh, I hate being single. I think that we have these thoughts because our hope is that, like once you graduate college, the hope is that you make more money. And the hope that it is that if you desire marriage, that God will give you that. But I often hear us talking about these things as if there's some like far off ideal, and right now we exist only to strive after those things. We can't possibly truly enjoy our lives and feel fulfilled now and participate in community and be good friends and be generous now because we haven't yet gotten to enjoy the future goals that we have. And it reminds me of the parable of the talents in Matthew 25. The master responds to the servants who are good stewards of what they had by saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." So what is your future defined by? Are you letting God define what's good, or are you settling for counterfeit? I want God to say to me, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I want to live my life in a way that God defines it, not in a knockoff counterfeit way that the world defines it. But I think that in order to do that, we have to be really honest with ourselves of the things that we are replacing for God's vision of a good life. We have to acknowledge those things. In his book, City of God, Augustine of Hippo describes 2 contrasting cities. One that is the city of man, that's formed by the love of self. It's characterized by chasing after earthly pleasures, aka a good life defined by man. And the other is the city of God, which is formed by a love of God and a pursuit of the presence of God. In the city of God, every desire is satisfied by God, who gives ultimate satisfaction and comfort. The citizens serve one another and love one another, and they worship the creator of all good things, not the created things themselves. And I think that's often what attracts us to the false gospel of the good life. Like, we want the good things, but we aren't quite sure if we want God. We think that God asks too much of us. He's demanding more than we're willing to give. But what we don't realize is that the false gospel of the good life demands just as much from us. It demands our time and effort in striving towards a goal that we will never truly feel satisfied in. Sienna talked about this in her sermon about the false gospel of being my authentic self, and she asked us if we trust God to define who we are. And I want to ask the same question. Do you trust that what God has to offer is really good? If God never gives you another thing, do you trust that what God has to offer is really good? That his sacrifice on the cross is enough? If God asks you to give up your vision of what you think a good life is, do you trust that he knows better? If not, I want to encourage you to talk to him about that. You will never truly be able to trust what God is offering if you still believe that the counterfeit version of the good life will make you happy. And so I'll end with Paul's words from Philippians as he reflects on how he has learned to be content in all circumstances, whether he was living the good life or not. And it's important to note that Paul's own vision of a good life completely changed when he truly got to know God. He was once high-achieving, young, talented Pharisee, and he gives that all up to be a wandering preacher who was jailed, beaten, slandered, and more, but whose life was fully submitted to Jesus. He truly believed in Jesus' definition of a good life. He says in Philippians, "I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength." Now my question here is, was Paul wrong when he learned what the good life was? It was enough for him to completely change his life. Was he wrong? And if he wasn't wrong, then what's the problem here? Do we just believe that it was only for him to give up everything to follow Jesus, and it's not for us? I think how you answer that question will determine how you live your life. So let's pray. Lord, I thank you for your sacrifice on the cross, God. I pray that you would help every single one of us to be submitted to what your vision of a good life for us is. Lord, I pray that through your strength, we, in any circumstance, would be able to praise you and to say that we've learned to be content, that we know that you are enough, that you care for us, and you will continue to care for us as we do our best to follow you. We pray this in your name. Amen.